Well, hello everybody. I have a special treat today. John in the background and Melissa are letting me come into Vintage Mercantile and Auction here in Spokane, Washington. I bought stuff from them online. They have been kind enough to open for me today so that I can look around and show you folks what they do here. A hybrid of both a regular retail store that's open some days of the week, and they also have an online auction. So the front part of the store is all the retail part, and this is a store that is open Thursday through Sunday, and then they also have the auctions online. They used to do live auctions, and then during the pandemic they switched to online and are still doing that. Wow, this is a really pretty piece here. This is Decor by Heisey, and what a great price. Elegant depression glass, I think, is so beautiful and really underrated. Look at the beautiful gilding on this, all this etching. This was something that was very popular in the 1920s and 30s when it was inexpensive enough for them to do this kind of work. And then by the 40s, all of these companies phased this out because having somebody do all of that etching was just too expensive. This appears to be some sort of an African antelope. With taxidermy, you have to be careful that it's legal to sell where you are. African animals are generally okay for us to sell here. This is a really neat bale. It's Libby glass with a leaf pattern. They've got $42.99, but what an interesting stand to hold it. That would be fun to carry out at a party or just have set on your table all the time. This is a pretty Italian glass piece here. $69.95 seems like a good price. It's got a nice polish on the bottom. That's 1960s vintage. I like this. Cranberry is really starting to be a big decorator color again. I think it's a good time to be looking for cranberry pieces. And this is Italian. You can see the riggery and then the applied feet with the gilding. Zeno is a huge fan of these. There are several on his mantle, and I always like them too. These are Viking glass. I like the pulls. $49.99 and $69.99 respectively. Look at these really beautiful, graceful Art Nouveau lamps. These are really quite spectacular. We have two different shades on them. They are oil lamps from about 1900. American made. Minx is the company that did the mantle. Yeah, really like those.
Heavy.
They look like they're heavy. They're really well cast.
30 pounds a piece.
Wow. Yeah, no, they're amazing. We just don't really see a lot of Art Nouveau in this country, so yeah, those are pretty phenomenal. So do you ship it all from the auction?
Minimum 50% of what we sell gets shipped.
Oh, that's great. So you've got listers and shippers and all that kind of thing to accommodate all of that.
Oh yeah, we ship to Canada. It's a little harder.
Yeah, it can be a little tricky, but
Ship to Puerto Rico, some of that has happened. But as far as out of the country, we haven't really done that.
yeah,
It usually goes to an airport location.
right, exactly. And then they take care of it from there.
We have a guy in Vietnam that buys a lot of lighter collections.
Interesting.
And so he goes to Portland, Oregon, on the airport way, and then
They forward it to him from there. Oh, interesting. How cool. So you're dealing all over the world. That's great. This parlor lamp is kind of charming to me because it's got an interestingly shaped shade. It's a little different. It's not like what we call the Gone with the Wind lamps now, where it's round and round. This actually has a different style to it. And some nice hand painting as well on milk glass. This is going to date to sometime around 1900. And it is an American-made piece because it's got the eagle burner. It is a kerosene lamp. I like this cabbage-shaped glass. This is Blue Portu from France. There's the mark in the bottom. I always have been very fond of the French pieces. Valérie Stahl also did this color, this very fun, bright blue color. These are pretty awesome. These are bar stools. This is Whitco. Whitco was out of Mount Vernon, Washington, and they did a lot of these burned wood and carved wood pieces that are big and blocky. And this was very popular in the 1960s and 70s when Polynesian style was in, and it is very popular now. $2.99 for the pair is actually a pretty good price because this stuff is spendy now. completely different flavor here. This is neat. The Ideal Corn Tester from Des Moines, Iowa, with a 1909 patent date. And if we open this up, there are your drawers, like the screen paint on it. This would be a fun thing to use to house a lot of small collections. Brass is definitely coming back, and this is a big, handsome brass antelope of some sort, priced at $150. This is going to be out of the 1970s. Notice the galvanized pieces in the middle here too. Galvanized is definitely popular. But these big cutouts look like something that might have come out of a store display of some sort. They look like they're bellying up to the bar to have a shot. It's on some sort of a foam core, and it's $75. I think that's really interesting looking. Something that was probably done in the 80s. This is a cool piece here. Large format camera with accessories. This is $345, and this is going to date to about 1900. A serious studio photographer would have used back in the day. And you had to hold still and not smile a lot because your face would be blurry because the exposures took a long time at that time. I just sold the Aunt Jemima Breakfast Club tin, but mine was not in that kind of condition. Next to it, we have Luscious Peaches from Georgia. That's one of those water-applied decals that you would stick on top of something, back when that was the way things used to be done. Cool little roasted coffee box here. They show the coffee plantation and the people carrying the beans on their head. This is priced at $16. House and Coffee Company out of Silver Creek, New York, gold band. That's a pretty neat graphic on there. Korea had a pavilion at the Expo 74 World's Fair, and Korea was not yet the manufacturing powerhouse that they are now. And so you saw a lot of things like this that were inexpensive souvenir things marked Expo 74. Oh, and look at this. Captain Crunch. The old paper billfold. How many of these could be left? I can't imagine very many at all. With Crunch Money with Jean de Foot, his nemesis, who was always subdued by being given a bowl of Captain Crunch, as I recall. Aw, look at this 1920s advertising piece for Jell-O. The nightmare. She dreamt that Jimmy stole my Jell-O. And we are nearing the end of the 50th anniversary of the Spokane World's Fair. And they've got a bunch of pieces. A couple of plates I haven't seen before, including the calendar plate, as well as this one, Spokane World Exposition. Haven't seen that. Here's the small version of the World's Fair Who's Art plates, including the Washington State Pavilion, which is now a performing arts hall. The U.S. Pavilion, the frame of which is still there and has been lit up and is really cool looking. And the Mormon Pavilion. We are close enough to Idaho and Salt Lake that this fair had a pavilion dedicated to the Mormon church and their culture. These are cute little jadeite pieces, and they're priced pretty well. They're little maple leaves. Anchor Hawking did these in royal ruby and forest green as well. You just see the circle on the back. They're not marked, but the jadeite are worth a little bit more because they're jadeite. Cute little barley twist 1910s era oak table there for $99. And here's a painted brass piece. I keep mentioning that I really like painted brass, and I think that one just has a lot of design and color to it. And this piece is sold. This shows us that there is starting to be a return to traditional styles, because that pediment with the split pediment and the wheat staff in the middle, and these reeded columns, this mahogany with the Sheraton style pulls, this is definitely something that is a more traditional style. It looks like something that would have been made probably in the 1940s. I don't think they've left the price tag on. I was going to snoop and see how much somebody paid. These are cool. These are Morgantown glass. It says Old Morgantown, but I really like the modernist style. They did a lot of really good modernist glass. They seem to have survived a little bit longer than a lot of the other glass companies, so they got to do some things in the 60s that were really fun. This is a genuine Civil War belt and buckle. It's the Aeroback puppy paw style, and that one is priced at $299. Case is a really good name in cutlery, and we think a lot about pocket knives, but actually these hatchets and cleavers and other things used for kitchen work and other types of carving are also collectible. Case Double X, definitely a brand worth looking for. The one behind it is German with the design on the blade. Bunch of lighters here, and the one that was really impressive to me is this one in the middle. I like the turning of the metal, and it's a really interesting design. This is a scriptobutane. I have not actually seen this piece before. The Cerrone Piezo electric table gas lighter. That is a lot of fun. I like this so much I think I have to own it. Hopefully they'll open their till for me today. More painted brass, and I really like this little piece too. It looks like it was a cigarette case originally, and it's got all these great graphics with all the animals in it. And then when you open it up, marked Volupta USA. So this is something that is transnational in nature. Now, one thing to know is always press the button when you're putting them back together, because that way you don't wear out the clasp. $29, boy, I think I'm going to have to get that too. Team USA 1996 is hard to imagine, but 1996 has been a while now, and this is part of the Dream Team. This is starting lineup. They did a lot of these sorts of things. They may still actually be producing today, but they're not producing these guys because these guys have all retired a long time ago now. A musical decanter, $13.99. It started to play music when I picked it up. You would wind them underneath. Yeah, it sounds like it's how dry I am. My parents had a similar decanter back in the 1960s. This is actually a UHF VHF TV converter back from the 50s. It looks like a radio, but it was actually for early television. Here we have a Motorola radio, priced at only $30. That's a good deal. And this one here is in working order. This one is priced at $69.99. Various geodes and carved stone pieces. Hello, everybody. And then over here we have pink tourmaline matrix, which I always think is pretty and interesting. Some nice quartz. There's definitely a lot of collectors for stones and fossils and other interesting things that are truly old. A lot of this is more than I understand, but I have to say they are beautiful. Look at the cactus quartz with fluorite and galena. I remember those names from 8th grade geology. Shannon filing cabinet. This is a great old piece from about 1910 from some office. Look at all the drawers. Think of all of the display and all of the way you could use these. And they obviously are. They said that this was reputed to have come from the Carnegie Building in New York. It's priced at $9.15. I have to say, I think that's a good price. Anything with a lot of drawers in this size. And then here for you Cabbage Patch fans, they had all sorts of additional outfits that they could do. So you could turn them into a Western look for $45. Basketball is a big deal here in Spokane because Gonzaga is a very good team. In fact, they have just been moved into the Pac-12, even though they're a small private school. This is signed by John Stockton and is priced at $179. Here's a really interesting World's Fair piece. This is from the Louisiana Purchase Exposition in St. Louis, and it's a decorative dagger. And you can see Louisiana Purchase Exposition in the decoration of the blade. It's priced at $3.99. One of the more unusual World's Fair collectors I've ever seen. Back here, this is a great graphic, 1914. This is very early Boy Scouting, priced at $179. The Boy Scouts in camp. That's just shortly after the Boy Scouts were formed. The parking meters are disappearing. This is a neat one from probably the 1950s where you actually had to turn the handle to make sure the coin dropped. I haven't seen that style before. Priced at $149. A lot of people are using those as banks now. A very good fire extinguisher here too. This one appears to be brass rather than copper. It's priced at $100, which is pretty reasonable. Any of these that have really good graphics, that's actually a pretty reasonable price, and it looks like it has everything it would need to work. I always seem to notice scales, and this one is really cool. It's priced at $349. This is a Toledo computing scale Toledo O, back before we had the zip codes and the way that we abbreviate states now. This one's very fancy, and you can tell that it's late 1800s because of all the decoration, the colors, the eagle with the wings spread, and the flag. So each space seems to have its own flavor. You have glass in one, you have advertising and things like this big Pepsi machine in one, radiation detection kit. These are actually pretty collectible because they come from an era, this is civil defense, this is back when they thought you might need to know if the Russians had dropped a bomb on us, how bad the radiation was. I'll take it out so you can see it. This one actually is a 1979 issue. There's the machine. The Victorine Instrument Company of Cleveland, Ohio. It has everything that it needs for you to be able to figure out the radiation exposure and find your best shelter and minimize your exposure. This is a very hard to find Falstaff piece. Some of the plastic beer advertising is starting to really go up in value because we're talking 50 years ago or more. And this one with the baseball is very seldom seen. And they do have it priced accordingly at $500. Old Coke machine topper for $2. I always enjoy these cases where you can just send the stuff round and round and look for interesting little things. Here's a matchbook collection. I used to collect matchbooks as a kid. The old ones have the striker on the front, as you see. And some of the advertising ones are of some value now. Husky is a gas and oil company. Idaho Chief Polyform Gasoline, never heard of that before. V for Victory, so this is 1940s and 50s stuff. There's the Seattle World's Fair tie bar for $18. Pure Innocence, that's got to be out of the 60s or 70s. Old sewing implements that were given as little needle cases. They were done by all sorts of companies for advertising. This one is advertising some sort of super soaking towels. Afro-American Pavilion, also a new concept at World's Fairs. That was here in Spokane in 1974. You don't see a lot from that pavilion. USSR also participated. There's a pin from their pavilion. The prices on these seem pretty good, actually. I definitely sold a lot of this at the show here in Spokane for the 50th anniversary. Steel knitting pin set. That's a neat old graphic on that from about 1900 or 1910. $40 on that piece. And then this side, we have a railroad lock with the key in it. It's important to have both. Lots of little pewter figures. These were very popular in the 1980s in particular. And a lot of these are pretty collectible now. They always were, really, but a lot of these are not in production anymore. Horse letter opener for $11.99. That's cool. Koken Barber straight razor. That's only the box, but the box makes the blades more valuable if you have them. $10 on that. Michael Kors. Doesn't take long for things to become vintage. Western Airlines bag. The airlines would give these out, and Western was the big carrier in this part of the country for a long time. Next to the Pyrex Snowflake and the Jadeite Bowl here is this very sweet-looking plaid-colored teapot. And this one is Erfilla. Erfilla was the Ebling and Roast Company out of Philadelphia, hence the name. Most of their stuff was made in Czechoslovakia, although they had pieces made in other places as well. And this is the tartan pattern. I find that rather likable. Plaid was definitely popular in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s in tableware. Vernon did a few plaid patterns that were very popular as well. Fiberglass dishes, right out of the 60s. Very flower power. This one is $16.99. That seems like a good price. These are range size. $14 for the set seems like a very good deal for the size. And this is Peppy Paw by Kreis & Company. They did the Psycho ceramics and a lot of other really fun ceramics of this era. And Salty Ma. It's amazing how inexpensive clocks are right now. This one is a great design that might be worth fixing. It's 19th century. It's got the lithophane with the hive on the bottom and the flowers. Great case too. A lot of people are starting to take the inners out of these and either just use them as display or they're repurposing them as places to hide valuables, for example, or boxes to hold other things. Here's a nice case with Fenton cranberry hobnail. And they've got some pretty good prices on these. $29 on the smaller basket, $50s and $60s on these larger baskets. Cranberry black glass was very popular in the 1940s and 50s, and then again in the 1980s when this big beverage pitcher was made. And it is coming back with decorators now. Some cool marbles here, especially those old swirl marbles in the back, those big shooters. Priced at $100 each. Those are going to date to early times, maybe early 1900s, and then there's a bunch of acro agates as well, including some hard to find colors. A lot of the value depends on the colors. It's so undervalued right now. Irish porcelain, which mostly is not made in Ireland anymore. That's a later Belleek with the shamrock, only $14.99. This one has lots of nice applied floral detail. Goldmark is later part of the 20th century. This one's only $17.99. You couldn't pay somebody to do all the handwork to put that on. $17 is just an amazing price when you look at all the work that went into that. Being the traveler I am, I just had to show this table. I think this is such a great repurposing. If you had a table that had problems with the top, they went ahead and painted the bottom, and then they have collaged various atlas pages, all this detail with all these interesting places. This would be such a fun way to do a map of various places that you've been in the world. I just think this is a really clever idea, and somebody did all the work on this one already, and it's only $50. I think this is a really neat concept. This is nice to see. It's got the original tag on it, Queen's Lusterware, made in Brooklyn, New York. Definitely has a silver fade to it, not to be confused with Dorothy Thorpe. Safe with detergents, will not tarnish, will not stain. Well, it seems like they were telling the truth. This is 50 years old now, and it didn't do any of those things. Really neat design, $99 on that. And then down here, a really fun shape. This is Franciscan's Coronado pattern. The maroon gloss was a later color. The original colors were pastel, but by later, we're still talking 1940s. I just always have liked this pattern. It's got real style to it, in my opinion. Corona Sterling portable typewriter. This is from the 1920s or early 30s. Look at the Art Deco stripes. Smith and Corona did eventually merge. The Smith Tower in Seattle was built by the Smith Typewriter Company, L.E. Smith, for the merger. We've got a little bit of costume jewelry here, and I really like this set. This is Matisse. Renoir and Matisse were by the people who ended up being the people behind the Curtis Juret sculptures. So the detail and quality of the metalwork is very good. Matisse always had the colored enameling. The Renoir were plain. I sold a couple of pieces at the show here in Spokane, so I know there's a customer around here for it. And I think the green and the copper together is just a very pretty look. Price on the balance scale here, this is $179. This is similar to an assayer scale that they would use for gold. This particular one is Christian Becker. And I would say this one probably dates to the 1940s approximately because of the style of the case. They do go all the way back to the late 1800s. Television, this is the original digital clock. The numbers just turned and there you had it. You didn't have to learn how to tell time. $24.99 in working order is a good price. This is a nice basic Packard Bell radio here for $34.99. These prices are really very good. I get asked a lot about VHS tapes. To be honest, mostly what people are interested in are the clamshell openers, It seems like Disney definitely still attracts attention. There are a few that are very valuable. There's a lot that are just fun to play. Case full of toys here. And above all of the die-cast are a bunch of models. Models are definitely collectible again. A lot of these were never made, and that makes a difference. If they're sealed in the original box, that's even better. $24.99 on the AMT with the Ford there. There is definitely a generation collecting these. Some of these are newer, but they won't be new forever. And some of the ones that are 30 and 40 years old actually go for pretty high prices. I did an appraisal for the manager of the band Pearl Jam, and he collected a lot of this stuff back in the 90s. And some of them were selling for prices that really surprised me. Here's a cool piece, the plastic model construction kit for the U.S. moon ship. 41 parts, made in USA. The Lindbergh line. Lindbergh was more of a snap together where you didn't have to use glue, and it was something that I liked because I wasn't a very sophisticated model maker. The more sophisticated model makers generally wouldn't want a Lindbergh piece, but that one is an exception because that's unusual. Jackpot Bank. This still has its original cellophane on it. These are fun, and any sort of jackpot banks seem to sell between $25 and $50. Raggedy Ann trash can out of the 1970s. Lockers were wildly popular about 10 or 15 years ago, and there are still people buying them because they are useful for organization around a house or in a garage, and they've got a cool look. This bank of lockers is priced at $225. Another spin display here. Let's see what little goodies we can find in here. Cigarette lighters are definitely collectible around here. I sold several at the Spokane show. Zippo, of course, is the big name, but people are also interested in the graphics. If it has something to do with the military, this one is Fairchild Air Force Base, which is right here in the Spokane area. The USS Mobile, Washington State Patrol. That scary one looks like the Joker. Kitsap Golf and Country Club, that's where I grew up. And then the Cal Neva Casino Resort in California. I grew up in Bremerton, and there was a lot of cruising going on when I was a kid, but not the ship kind. Scottish kilt brush, that's a fun thing you don't see very often. They generally hang them from the kilt. Little folding knife with the turquoise and the coral, and it seems like a very good price. Novelty condom boxes, I sold one of those at the show. Badges are definitely something that are collectible as well. New Mexico Legislature security, that's an unusual one. Look at all the butterfly pins. What a fun collection this is. I had a fellow who used to come and buy a butterfly pin for his sister every few weeks for some special occasion or other. Birthdays, anniversaries, just because she ended up with quite a big collection. This big black one is unusual because of the size. This orange one, we see these in this frame with various colors. I have a blue and red version currently. You can tell by the prong setting that these are older ones here. Prices on these seem like they're in the 30 to 50 range for some of the more elaborate ones, but some are as little as $12. This one's very nicely made for $40. Only $12.50 on the one with the pearls. That seems like a good price. And boy, they just have a huge, extensive collection of these. This one for $42 is quite large and showy. I like the red, white, and blue enamel. They're fun to collect because if you're going to collect a single theme in jewelry, there's so many varieties of butterflies. You will occasionally see dragonflies as well, but they're scarcer. And look how there's just rows and rows of them. And even more in this case. This is such an extensive collection. Well, this is sure turning out to be a really fun place to shop and to look around. And if you're having fun like I am, well, please click that thumbs up to let YouTube know that you're enjoying this video. Please do subscribe if you haven't, because then you can click the bell to be notified of future videos. And if you're interested in supporting the channel with a membership, well, we're always very grateful for the extra support, because we travel all over the country and go to great lengths to try to bring this to you. If you're able to support us with the membership, well, you can find out more about that by going to the membership link under the dash line in the description of any video. Collector spoons are definitely of more interest than ever. Some are silver plate and some are sterling, and the sterling ones have gotten attention, of course, because the price of sterling is up. But regardless, the designs are what really are interesting to people. Here's 1893 Chicago up at the top. That is from the Columbian World's Exposition, the first Chicago World's Fair. The one below it is Fort Dearborn from the Century of Progress, the second Chicago World's Fair. And here's some of our sterling spoons. These are Demitasse signs. Look at the great detail they went to get people to buy these. And at the time they were making these, sterling wasn't that much more dear than anything else. So the fact that they went to such trouble, look at the very pretty woman, the one who's pointed down. Another nice selection here. Fort Pitt and Pittsburgh at the bottom center there. Some of these have vermeil, that's why they look gold in the bowl. That means that it's a gold plating over the sterling. Fewer people wear ties these days, so tie tacks and tie bars are something that are readily available, and there's some really neat old designs. I like this one with the red enamel. That is going to be something probably made in Japan, 1695. Toledo Damascene next to it, $10.99 for the pair of cufflinks. This is a groovy color combination of turquoise and orange from the 70s here. Old stereo stuff is definitely collectible again. Reel-to-reels in particular have always been something that people buy. But you have all sorts of different pieces and components. It was definitely popular back then to buy components and put them together, because the idea was that each piece would be better if you bought quality modular components. System here for the receiver. You have receivers, you have amplifiers, and a good old cassette deck for those who still do. And 8-tracks. And yes, there are people who still collect 8-tracks. There's even a few bands who have released 8-tracks in recent time, which I find hilarious to imagine, but it's true. These are really cool. These are Pioneer speakers, and they were meant to also serve as end tables from the 1970s. They do have records here, and he says that he is working on getting another big collection in. This old dog, $30. That one's kind of a harder one to find. Peter Criss from Kiss. There's an early Led Zeppelin. This one has the trifold. Notice the difference in price. It really does matter what is in the album as much as anything else. The cars. I always like that Lucite steering wheel. I would love to have a car that had a Lucite steering wheel. The graphics really were a lot of the appeal of the older albums, because they had all of this space to work with. 38 Special, this one has interesting cutouts. That can actually have something to do with the value as well. And a lot of artists are re-releasing on vinyl now, because there's Adele. That one is new and sealed. This is a modernist Japanese print block artist, and this is a very desirable artist. 1975 date, number 41 of 100. This is priced at $5.95. Japanese block prints are definitely popular at this point in a way that they never were before. Cool old Zenith Transoceanic. This is the big shortwave receiver. So you could talk to people all over the world with this. And it had the shortwave wave magnet. They always boasted of their warranty. These were great, really well made, and a lot of them still work. This one's only $100, which is actually a pretty good deal for these. I've seen them sell for double. Very pretty Murano birds. Some good colors in Fenton that we don't usually see. And look at that little apartment size ape heron in very pretty minty color for $129. Another plaid set. This is interesting because it's got the stacking cream and sugar on top of the teapot with a trivet. This is going to be a Japanese set. There's your mark from about 1955, priced at $15. Seems like a good deal. The original yellow Fiesta-ware disc pitcher and salt and pepper. And then these went with the Riviera pattern that Homer Laughlin made a few years later. Pixieware, jam and jelly, $100 on that. That's not a bad deal. It's hard to find the Holt Howard Pixies in any sort of good condition. That little mark there is Roy Crofters. Roy Crofters was run by Elbert Hubbard, felt that the Victorian era and mass production had really gotten out of hand and that we were losing craftsmanship. And so he set up studios where everything was done by hand. Furniture, hammered copper. He also was rather a philosopher. There's many books of his talking about his philosophies on life and the human condition that are very interesting to read. Here is the front. These are just a very simple, small pair of bookends, but they're priced at $129. Roycroft stuff, for the most part, is pricey because it was handmade. There's not a lot of it, and it's such a good story. And this is all 110, 120 years ago. I see these little guys in salt and pepper form, but I've never seen the big creamer and sugar set before. Those are really, really cute. Bonzo style from the 1930s. The Germans made a lot of nice perfume bottles in the 1950s and 60s. This is an Echt Cristal in pink for $26.99. Look at the Enid Collins Jewel Garden. This is in really good condition. The white ones especially tended to get dirty, get worn around the edges. I see one stone that's missing, but Rhinestone Rosies in Seattle usually can match those flat backs, so that could be repaired. It's priced at $110. Uranium glass. And why do they have jadeite with uranium glass? Well, if it's by McKee used some of their custard glass in the formula, and so their jadeite does glow under a black light. If this was Fire King jadeite from the 50s, it's a little mintier color and it does not glow in a black light. So if you're a uranium glass collector, look for the older pieces by McKee. I have always liked these British little cases from the 1930s. Very Art Deco, great style. I just like the way the wood's applied to the glass. You have storage display and then a center area, which is a cupboard. They're not heavy because they're built as one piece. They don't have a big frame that the things are hung on, so they're easy to move and they're easy to deal with if you live in a small space. And that's why I think they're appealing to people. And $199 is a pretty good price on this. This one is from the Czech Republic. And of course, they've changed the name to Czechia at this point. So this has some age too. And I love the two-toning on it and the big loops. This is a pretty typical style for a German mantle clock. And I really like them. They're just long and shapely and interesting. They're just different from what we see here. Here's a color of Fenton case glass you don't see very often from the 1970s, sort of a butterscotch. Look at the fun blow molds. There's a turkey. I rarely see Thanksgiving-related blow molds. The camel is really cool. The angel with the wings is facing into the window. And then we have these Dickens characters here. These are all ones that are a little bit unusual that I don't usually see. This is cool. This is from a light that would have been above the key cutting stand, and that is priced at $4.99 if you had the key stand. These are broken a lot of the time, so this would be a good replacement. This Ansonia piece is Spelterware, and it is a very nicely done piece. This is Dennis Pepin, who is an inventor, and that's why you see all sorts of interesting objects and a book to give the notion of this is an important person who was knowledgeable and scholarly, and indeed that was true. Another house art piece with a space-related design and in reverse painting as well, and this has to do with the first object in the world ever recovered from orbital spaceflight. The Discoverer 13 was designed and built by General Electric Reentry Systems Department. And that is August of 1960. That's a hard one to find, priced at $40. They like to tempt you with one case that shows some of the items that are included in the auction. We're going to take a quick look in the back and show a little bit of how the auction works. Well, this says do not enter, but they've been kind enough to let me into the inner sanctum, so. You have quite a production going on here. So merchandise and shipping and...
This is our ready auction. They'll be going Wednesday night. We'll clear it up a little bit more, and then we get in here Thursday morning and just start pulling stuff. Takes us about 2 hours.
2 to 3 hours, depending on how many invoices we have to pull.
And how many lots do you typically run in an auction each week?
250 on the low end, up to 450.
Wow.
Right now, yeah, we were up to 700 to 800.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of sports cards, so that was.
Oh, right. And that's a little bit easier because people buy in multiples, so you're shipping to one place. Wow. Well, you're running some merchandise through here then. What is the auction website?
Vintage Mercantile Auction.hibid.com.
Very good.
Yeah, or you can go to our website, which is Vintage Mercantile Auction.com, and there's an auction tab there too.
Excellent. There's the QR code, and you can go right to it. Oh, that is great.
I have 13 years.
Wow. That's fantastic. Oh, that's really good. That's the Reinhold Weiss designs. Oh, this is really cool. That's a great collection to have. And there's so much good railroadiana, it seems like, in Spokane. It seems like a place that people really like it.
From an estate of a guy that worked for Northern Pacific. Hilliard.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's right, because we're right next to the huge railroad yards here. The Empire Builder, yeah, right when they were switching to the diesel trains. That is really neat. What a great collection. It looks like they never were hung or anything.
And then they've got the information about them on the back.
Wow.
I think it's from 47 to 57. If I remember right.
That's so cool the way they're presented. Oh, those are great. Great domes, yeah. This was a good scenic route. And it went right through the area where the Blackfeet lived, so they honored them in this way. Just look at that face. Amazing.
And sometimes we're just not sure if I want to sell it yet, you know?
I can understand that. Yeah, I mean, we are all collectors, right? That's how we got into this. How did you get into this anyway?
Collected cars when I was in my 20s and 30s. Then when we moved up to Spokane in 2011, I did garage sailing, and we started going to auctions, and we just buy and do our own sales. And then first thing I ever sold on eBay was probably a couple of years after it started. Sold a 74 Gremlin with the Levi interior.
Oh, cool. I remember those.
Shipped it to Texas. So I always kind of had the passion.
Yeah.
To either buy for myself or find stuff for people. Or
Well, you just made me so happy by saying that you had an AMC Gremlin. I was a Studebaker driver, and I mean, I love old cars, but I always see, the big three over and over and over. So the fact that you like something offbeat makes me very happy.
No, I'm the queen of get rid of it.
You need one of each in a business like this. Otherwise, you just end up keeping everything forever.
Exactly. So I every time something comes in, I'm looking on how can I market it and get it moved on to the next collector.
Oh, that's great.
I do collect some uranium glass. I walked into an estate sale one time and saw a whole case lit up, and I went, that stuff I like. I will collect that. So
yes. Oh, that's good. See, it bites us all a little bit. Yeah. In my world, I am the collector / dealer, and then Zeno, who does my tech, he says he doesn't collect anything except he actually collects orange Viking glass from the 70s, and he also collects vacuum cleaners, but he just doesn't realize it yet.
be processed. This is just our overflow for the bigger items in the auction.
Yep.
We don't do really big items. few pieces of furniture, but it's all local.
Right.
We don't-
Local pickup. Yeah. That makes sense.
But this is a photo booth.
Oh, very nice. So it's all just set up and easy in, easy out. That's a nice size too. And I never thought of using that kind of a neutral background, but that's perfect actually. Because I know you said you do eBay.
We do eBay, yeah. I've got a really great cross-listing program. So everything that goes on eBay can go onto Macari and Poshmark and vice versa. So it makes it sweet and simple.
That's great that you can just list it all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, and then delist for you and relists again and keeps the products current.
It's hard to argue with the fact that eBay has this giant international market and you can sell anything there as opposed to, perceptions or that the other ones are really specialized.
Yeah, but eBay's got its own little quirks in the way that it says no to a lot of different things and then hides you it.
That is also a problem, yeah. So we all just have to try everything until we figure it out.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, this is really cool. So this is in this week's auction. Wow, that's great. My mother collected these, and this one, it looks like one of the first editions, actually, as I recall. Is it really? Yeah. Wow, that's a great piece. What do these sell for now? Do you have any idea?
I was just looking it up, kind of getting an idea what it might sell for. I saw a lot of first editions in the $200 to $300 range.
Yeah.
I know they used to sell for a lot more than that.
They did, but actually still, that's good money for a child's book. And I think my mother paid about what your pre-auction estimate is for these. The graphics are just so cool. Oh, that's good. I'll have to follow the auction and see how it does. Box is great. Hit no more bow-legged pajamas.
But the other thing that's kind of interesting about it says it's a nativity set for Xmas 1945, 1940. But I'm thinking this is all hand painted and somebody created that.
Yeah, I've seen these before where they're like little pieces of chalkware, and I think it was small companies that did it, where they didn't just make one for themselves. I have a feeling that this was part of a small production that they sold pieces from, and they're really well done, actually. Look at the detail on this face.
Yeah, and they're really great shape if it's really truly from 1945.
Oh, I would say it is. It certainly looks like the right style for the era.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Joseph looks good.
Now we're looking at putting this one in the auction, trying to decide if this was a quality item to put in there and what to expect.
Gosh, I think it is. I know they like the Japanese creches of this area, but I just think the presentation is really cool.
We're pushing out Christmas stuff now because we know people that are in, resellers. That's our main customer.
A lot of your customers are resellers. I know I've bought from you before.
Yeah, so we're not getting necessarily full retail price on them. So I know resellers are looking for a Q4, so items to get out the door.
That's right. Good timing for it. No, that's a cute set.
Been buying probably more storage units this year.
Interesting. Okay. And you're finding a lot of old stuff in storage units?
Yeah.
Well, most everything's online now. So you see some pictures and you can kind of get an idea.
Oh, that's true. It's not like the old days where they just roll up the door and then you guess what's in the boxes that you can't see. They actually show you some stuff. That's great. So people walk in and they bring you estates and all of that, and then you pick through. But you do jury the stuff. I noticed that. Your pictures are very good. And I noticed that you focus on the antique and vintage stuff. There's not a bunch of junk in your auctions.
Yeah. Well, that's something we kind of wanted to focus on. There's a lot of people who do thrift stores.
Right.
While we do have a lot of new things, we have some new clothing and stuff, but we want people to come in that are looking for stuff.
Yeah.
We want memories.
Yes.
And there's nothing better than somebody walking in and go, oh, Mom had one of these or Grandma had one of these.
Exactly. How cool. Yeah.
My sister got it.
Yeah.
And now I didn't get it, so now I'm going to buy it.
I need one too. Yes, I have definitely heard that a few times. You notice this is a really cool old Art Deco building. This was a Safeway store, one of the very first when Safeway became a grocery store in 1923.
Well, that was really fun. I got some really cool stuff. It was very nice of them to let me shop, even though they weren't technically open. I am definitely going to check out Vintage Mercantile and Auction in the future. A lot of their stuff is good, and a lot of it is reseller priced. So for me, it's a great place to source, and actually, well, now the secret's out. So you can check them out too because they do ship. So have fun looking at what they're doing, and we will come back and show more of Spokane and the great antique and vintage here at another time. If you enjoyed this video, check out this one. Also, click thumbs up to like this video and check the description for information about our Patreon, our memberships. We've got a lot of different levels with different perks and bonus videos and early content. Also, please do check out our website, theantiquenomad.com, for appraisal help. And we'll see you again for more adventures in the antique and vintage community soon. Bye for now.